On again tonight. We got Jack Willman on. Jack, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jack, how you been doing, buddy?
No, I've been doing just fine.
Well, I tell you what, man. This Road to the Hall of Fame show is something pretty special for me, and plus being able to talk with some of the Hall of Famers is completely awesome. Jack, what was it like when you got that phone call and they said, "Hey, guess what? We want you in the Hall of Fame"?
Well, it was pretty interesting. You know, I'm always interested in stuff dealing with the monster trucks. That see what they bring out.
You know, Jack, it's changed a lot in the time since you've been behind the wheel. The trucks are getting bigger and faster, and they're doing all that. But before we get into that, let's just start back to day one when you decided that you wanted to get into the monster truck business. What was the motivating factor there?
Well, we were just weekend four-wheelers back then. That's been quite some time ago.
Sure.
And, of course, we was on one side of the river from Bigfoot across. He was on the Missouri side. We was on the Illinois side.
Right.
And I don't know, we used to all go out to the river there and play. And, we just kind of decided that he was a Ford and we was in the GM products and he needed some competition.
Nothing better than a good old American competition, is there, Jack?
That's correct.
I'll tell you what.
And,
go ahead.
And that's really kind of what started off things. Of course, at that time I was barefoot.
Right.
I started the barefoot trucks. Then, of course, I started the Taurus trucks.
Now, you were really the third monster truck created out there in the early 70s. Is that correct?
That's probably right. It's probably a guy that we never really heard of or seen. At this particular time that we started messing with these things was Jeff Dane.
Sure, and he was on two shows ago.
He might have been out there, at the same time before. Who knows? Because he was in Wisconsin and we're in St. Louis.
Right.
But anyway, that it's somewhere there and there roundabout.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, you and Fred Schaefer, you guys were kind of a teamed up, and you started the first Barefoot with Fred. Is that correct, or am I wrong in that?
No, that's correct.
Okay. And then you ran with Fred for how long with the Barefoot truck?
I'm trying to think. I think it was about 79 to probably 84, 85, somewhere around there.
Uh-huh.
So, 4 or 5 years.
Uh-huh. Now, how did the name Barefoot come up? Was it a kind of a play on words against Bigfoot itself, or did you guys just have nothing to do with that idea like that?
Well, actually, Fred kind of came up with a name. Of course, he had two pet bears, Sugar and Spice, at that time.
Uh-huh.
And, he just, that's how the name come about. Matter of fact, he used to ride around them bears in his back of his pickup and even in the front seat.
Now, see, this is a story that I've never heard. That's pretty cool. So if you don't mind for a minute, let's touch on that. What kind of bears were they?
Black bears.
Just they were pretty good size, though, weren't they?
Well, he got them when they was real small, and of course, I don't know, when he was riding around with them in his truck, they was probably 300 pounds or better.
Wow.
So pretty good sized bears, yeah.
They could tear up an interior. Did you ever get a chance to hang out with the bears?
Oh yeah, that was a pretty common thing. I wasn't too much into animals as much as he was. He was really into them. But matter of fact, lots of pictures with him and I standing beside the truck with the bears, and he's holding one, I'm holding one. I usually had Spice all the time because she was a female, and the male was a little more rowdier, so he always handled her.
Yeah, and back then they were probably small and then still a handful.
Yes, well, they was when they stood up, they was taller than Fred and I both.
All right.
But yeah, there's lots of pictures of us with the bears around the truck. But that's how the name come about.
I always thought it was maybe some kind of play towards the Bigfoot name or something like that. But no, that makes a lot of sense.
It all went together,
Sure. Oh yeah, guaranteed. Our lug nuts, which is our fan base, Jack, they want to ask you some questions here. We got a question from one of our lug nuts. It says, Jack, how did the partnership between you and Fred Schaefer come about?
Well, Fred and I, we was drag racing buddies, and we go four-wheeling buddies and all that. And anyway, that's more or less how we just buddies. And Fred kind of had money, and I really didn't have any, so he supplied the money, and I supplied the work.
That's
more or less how it come about.
That's a good trade. That's a good trade-off. Are you and were you guys still friends?
Yeah. Matter of fact, we still talk today. He moved to Florida, and I moved down by Branson. We're pretty far apart, but I had a pretty long conversation here with him about 3 or 4 days ago.
Now, is it to my understanding that he will not be attending the Hall of Fame, or is that wrong?
He told me that he probably wouldn't. His wife, has got some issues going on. He just feels better that he needs to stay home.
Well, and you know what? You got to take care of your family, man. That's one of the reasons why I'm giving up this show, is because I got to take care of the family, and that's all there is to it. I mean, family's first in this business, and as much as we are out on the road, you got to make your family your number one priority.
Sure. That's right.
Let's talk monster trucks in the 70s. What was it like to be a monster truck driver in the 70s?
It wasn't too difficult, Most of the time back then, you'd get hired out, like at a truck pull, mainly. So when you went to an event, you was the only truck, and of course, you didn't have to worry about matching what the other guy did or anything. You just kind of relaxed and went out there and done what you felt good with, and it was most of the time good enough. As a matter of fact, it was just fine with everyone.
Sure. Well, they'd never seen the truck before. They'd never seen anything happen like what you guys were doing, so it was really, really cool. And there wasn't a lot of trucks out there at the time, if I'm correct. Is that true?
That's correct, yeah. There was us and Bigfoot, and of course, Jeff Dane with King Kong,
right.
Which a guy by the name of Broadway Bob would hire us all. Actually, or myself and Jeff with King Kong, Broadway Bob would always hire us together to put on a show at his drag strip. Which Broadway Bob, he always had guys like Don Garlitz, and he had some pretty top names.
Sure.
And of course, the thing with Jeff and I, which at that time I was barefoot, not Taurus, Broadway Bob would usually have us do like a tug of war. Of course, Jeff would have he had a diesel engine in his monster truck.
Sure.
And of course, we just had a big block Chevy. So he could drag me all over the place, which was kind of embarrassing. But then we would get out on the drag strip, and of course, that's where we would show up lots better than what Jeff could.
Right, exactly. Now, Lugnuts, you guys are asking some questions that I'm going to save for a little bit later on in the show because of the format that I've got down here. So I will try to get to those questions a little bit later on. Let's see here. What would you consider were your toughest trucks in the early 90s to compete against?
Well, of course, in the early 90s, I was Taurus then.
Sure.
and of course, Bigfoot and Fred Barefoot. You know, they was by far the toughest at that particular time. You know, there was also another guy that we never got to compete with a whole lot in the early days of the racing, which was a guy by the name of Dave Cook. And there's two Dave Cooks out there. One of the Dave Cooks was my engineer that actually designed the four-link system that's under the trucks today. But there was another Dave Cook, and his truck was Equalizer, which it was a wishbone suspension truck.
Oh, it was?
Yes. And actually his truck, when it come to the racing, we had heard and heard and heard about his truck and never had seen it until when we put our four-link truck together to go do some serious racing. We went with TNT, and that's who Equalizer always run with.
So you guys got a chance.
Yeah, you know, you never hear about this other Dave Cook, you know, and also the Dave Cook that worked for me, which was, you know, I mean, these guys, like the Dave Cook that worked for me, I mean, he had a master's degree in engineering.
Sure. Wow.
And
didn't even realize that he was going to be the creator of something really cool.
Yeah. I mean, he you know, here's a fine example. Like the Dave Cook that worked for me was a mud racer, which he built what you call the Silver Eagle, which was a turbine mud racer.
Oh, turbine mud racer.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there was only one of them. And which I'm sure if you look through, you could see. But anyway, we would travel together to the mud races and monster truck shows and everything. And this is actually before and after the four-link systems. You know, we would discuss things as we was traveling around, and he would jot things down. And anyway, that's how all that come about.
Kind of like a great big rolling chalkboard. Hey, Jack, why don't you hang on for a second? We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're running just a little bit past that first spot, so we'll go ahead and take MonsterTruckRadio.com. We're talking to my buddy, Mr. Jack Willman. We're talking about monster trucks. What else could we be talking about on a Monday night at this time? Nothing but monster trucks. Jack, you still with us?
Yeah.
Good. Jack, you know, we've talked a little bit about you teaming up with Fred and stuff, and when you were about the third monster truck out there in the 70s to be created. Let's go ahead and talk about how Taurus came to be.
Well, you know, Taurus, when Fred and we separated, and of course I ended up with one of the Barefoot trucks, and Fred ended up with one, and
right.
And you know, we're sitting around discussing what was we going to name it, and my wife come up with my Zodiac. That's how we come up with Taurus. That's my Zodiac.
That's your Zodiac sign.
Yeah, and of course we just put some wheels on it, the bull and Taurus. That's how it came about.
You know, Jack, when you were building Taurus, did you ever think that the dream that you were creating at that time would grow into something as big as the sport has gotten today?
No, I didn't. You know, no, I didn't really realize it. You know, that's like, here to find an example, you know, I used to do a lot of work with USA Motorsports. And we'd go all over, but I went to North Fork, Virginia, and doing a show there indoors, and this mud racer, he come up to me, which he was just a regular old mud racer, because that's who we used to run a lot with, the mud racer and the monster truck. And his name was Dennis Anderson.
I wonder who that guy is, huh? What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly. You know, so, and Dennis talked to me quite a bit that time there in North Fork. And, of knew, which he told me there that he wanted a monster truck.
Uh-huh.
And of course, as we progressed, well, Dennis kind of progressed off of that also, because him and my son become pretty good friends.
Uh-huh.
So all the stuff that was that I was advancing on, he kind of had an inside line on it.
Yeah, and look at where he's gotten with it today. Do you think if you guys would have stayed in the sport that you guys be up there running with Dennis today?
You know, it's hard to say just what would have been done. You know, the chances are very good that we would have been involved there some way. You know, because also, you know, I had another part of the family that was also working with me.
Right.
Driving, which is Eldon Depew.
Uh-huh. Now, he was your nephew, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And, of course, you know, things was rolling pretty good. I mean, which I wanted out of the driver's seat anyway. You know, I enjoyed just setting things up and making things better and letting them two boys drive, because there is nothing like youth in the driver's seat, you know.
Boy, that is the truth. That is the truth.
But, you know, and both them guys was doing a superb job. I'm sure if you go back on look at back then when we was all going, which we was on top of the world, you know. I mean, we had the top technology and everything, and everybody was just doing everything they could to keep up with us to what we was doing.
Right.
But of course, things happen, you know, that you don't expect to happen, and
right.
Things get tore down.
Well, but, we all make mistakes in our lives, don't we?
Yeah, that's what life is.
That is the truth. And sometimes, you know, the school of hard knocks is a better teacher than having somebody say, no, don't do that. You know, this is what you need to do instead. So, you know, that's just the way things happen. You know, you were the first one to go over 2 full-size school buses. What was that like, and what was the crowd response when you done something like that? Because everybody was used to seeing you going over cars and stuff at that time.
Yeah, and that was the first time I did that was in Texas Stadium down in Dallas, and that was for USA. But it was different because, you know, at that time we were just kind of crawling over things, you know, so that was a pretty high crawl.
Sure. Yeah, it was.
You know, and you know, I had to do some preparation to the buses to make it where I could get up on them, you know, like ramp them. Because I didn't stack no dirt or I'd put a couple cars kind of in the back so I could come off of them. But that was about it. So it was pretty raw thing, but the response was tremendous, which made you feel really good, you know.
Sure, exactly.
And you know, I did that a few times, not all the time. I can't remember how many times I did that, but it was a few.
Well, and, they're doing it now, even bigger now.
Oh yeah, they just fly over. I mean, they go over stuff lots bigger now. But
it's amazing.
They get a little momentum behind them.
Sure, exactly. That momentum is a big factor in the trucks today, isn't it?
That's right. You know, and you know, like today and back then when I did it, our trucks weighed like 15, 16, 17,000 pounds.
Jesus criminy! Now we're down to 9,500.
Yeah. So if you got much momentum going and all that coming down, which we would do that a lot, we would fly them through the air, the big old heavy things, you know. But it'd be kind of long where they would kind of set down, you know, kind of gradual.
Right.
Not just shoot them shoot them straight up and down because they just bust all the pieces, you know.
Sure.
And of course, when I come out with that first race truck, my first race truck, of course, with the help of Dave Cook, that thing weighed like 7,900 pounds.
Wow.
I mean, even yet today, I don't think there's nobody that's matched it. Of course, it didn't take long for Mr. Chandler and all the rest of them to get together and figure out a way to deal with me. And, of course, the way they found to deal with me was to add a couple of tons to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they done.
Well, you know, you had a lot of firsts out there. You know, the first one to go over the bus stacks, the first monster truck to get wrecked, not in a competition, but on the back of a hauler, going to the Rose Bowl, correct?
Going to the Orange Bowl, yeah.
Or the Orange Bowl, yeah. So that was a first there. You guys were on top of the world, and then in 1993, tragedy struck. You broke your back.
Yes, I did.
And that was kind of. Did you know that was a pretty serious thing, and it was probably going to be over with for you?
Well, not really. That's the time that I had Jackie and Elvin both driving for me. So
sure.
Really, there was some, which I hadn't been in a truck for about a year when I broke my back.
Uh-huh.
And some issues come up where I got in it. And, of course, I hit some stuff up in Great Falls, Montana, and that was for Stanley Torgerson I was working for then.
Uh-huh.
Small arena, and I shot that thing straight up. And, of course, I had no room to let it kind of simmer down. It just come down hard, and there was a wall right there in front of me, and I knew something snapped. I thought it was a frame on the truck, but it was my back.
Oh, shit. Oh.
And, I let it heal up for a year, and then I got back in the truck and refractured it again. Then I knew it was done.
And then it was time to be over. Kind of like, when Don King was when Don King was out there running barefoot, and there has been a lot of great drivers running barefoot. That name carried on for a long time. He got hurt, and I happened to be at the show that he got hurt at, and you just don't want to give it up, but he could tell that was it, and you could see the sadness in his heart, man. It was a terrible thing because, you guys, that's something that you guys had a passion for. There's something that especially you were just getting it started. You were seeing this thing develop into this big giant, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Why don't you hang on for a minute, Fred? We're going to take a quick break. Like I told you, it goes fast. So we'll be back in a minute, guys. We're talking to Mr. Jack Willman, and we'll be back in a minute here. We'll be back. This is MonsterTruckRadio.com. I'm back, and I bet you, Jack, he hung up on me since I called him Fred. Jack, you still there?
Yeah.
I'm getting a ration here on the thing there, my buddy, because I called you Fred. We were talking about Fred. I had Fred on the brain. I apologize for that, my friend. I apologize.
That's all right.
Let's see here. We got some great questions here. Jack, what happened to your second tube frame truck?
The second two-frame truck I sold to a guy by the name of Paul Schaefer.
Mm-hmm. And he ran it for a while, didn't he?
Well, he actually ended up selling it to Tom Mint.
Uh-huh.
Which, kind of everything that Tom is running today is still just a copy off of what we did.
That kind of
what we had performed. Of course, you guys know that Tom is the only one still running a front engine job.
Right.
There's a reason behind all that. That's what we had.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, he still positions the engine in the same manner that we did. And, well, everything, when Tom ended up with one of our trucks, he didn't change anything. He just kept going with the same thing. thing that he did change, which is something that if we'd continued on, is one of the things I would have done is he had one coilover shock and one air shock. Which, keeps you from having to run one of them sway bars.
Right.
All that stuff is just added weight, Of course, I've been out of it for a long time now, and where everything has went to now, of course, to this date, they've not advanced it any further than whenever I was in it.
Right.
The advancement that we did is still the top of the line today. Nobody's never took it a step further.
Well, I tell you what, once again, that's got to make you feel good that something that you worked hard on and many hours in the shop is out there still proving that it's a working relationship.
Yeah, and of course, I'm not that smart. Dave Cook is the one that had all the technology behind it. I just more or less kept working with it. I guess a good example is like the coilover shocks that we had when we first started that. Matter of fact, Jackie would get mad because I had a test track out back to my shop down in Pontoon Beach, Illinois. And every time we went out there to test it, the parts would just fly all over the place with the coilover shocks. And Jackie would say, "This ain't never going to work, let's go back to the leaf springs, and because this ain't never going to work, But we just continued on, and I guess what I'm trying to get to is our coilover shocks that we was using when I was testing and that, we couldn't keep them together. Matter of fact, our first show with that truck was Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. And we had those coilover shocks that we was making ourselves because we couldn't get nobody to make them for us. And, of course, the spring rates and everything, we was dealing with all that stuff. But then finally I got Fox Shocks to make some shocks for me. But we more or less had to prove to them that our system, the way it was going to work, because we had a shaft coming out both ends of the shock. It wasn't coming out one end. It was coming out both ends.
Wow. What'd they do to fix that?
What we done is we made a piece to put two shocks together. Because we was trying to get the travel, for the 4-lane.
Right.
And Fox tried to tell us that wouldn't work. Well, once we showed that the way we put them shocks together would work, they made us a whole shock like that. Of course, those shocks would cost me a set of 8 of them would cost me $10,000.
My God.
And back then that even today that's a lot of money for
I guarantee. I was going to say that's a lot of money now, let alone back then.
Yeah, but and then our springs, the Fox would only make our shocks for it. Which I know a lot of people's familiar with Fox shocks. They're mainly on snowmobiles and off-road vehicles. Other than monster trucks. But we got them to make our shocks. I don't think they make them today. But then our springs to go on them shocks, that was another issue. There was a place in California that we would get our springs made. Bet Springs is the name of that place. They was in California because they're the only ones I could find because our tolerance had to be exact. So what they would make our springs out of is centerless ground material. And, of course, to come up with the rates that we needed, which I still have some of that stuff here at the house. The springs and things, that the different rates that we would use, that was all a big deal.
Now, Jack,
the right rate.
Out of all the trucks that you built, I think there was a total of 6 or 8 of them. Was there 8?
I'd have to sit down and count how many because, I'm trying to think now. I'd say 8 would be close. Yeah.
Now, do you have any of the trucks at all left? Do you have anything left?
Oh, I got a door from one of the steel body trucks. That that we turned over, and it's pretty good shape, honestly. Looks pretty good.
Now,
it's got the gold leaf on it with the Taurus,
right.
that half of it on it. And then, of course, when we changed our colors from the berry red to black, which that was supposed to get us some money, which we never did get from one of the big promoters. I have one of the bull head off the hood of one of them. And, I got some of the old springs. I don't know why I'm keeping them things. I got a lot of old brackets and stuff that we had made to go the next step further in monster trucks from where it was at then and even where it's at now. I had, we would, like Dave Cook and I would talk about things that needed to be done, and we would start working on them to try to get ahead. But, there were different ones that would put a stop to everything that was in my agenda. And I still have that stuff in a box.
Well, it sounds like that you've got some pretty neat stuff to maybe send out to the museum. Will any of those pieces be able to be seen at the museum?
Yeah, I'm probably going to take that door down there, and I might take that bull's head and just few things,
right.
Them two things mainly, and
well, I think
like there's, I got so many thousands of hours of video and just buku of stuff, boxes of where we was in the papers and the hometown papers. They do a big spread on me, the St. Louis Post. Of course, they did Bob Chandler several times too. More than me. Of course, but we've got different items that I'm gonna bring with us. And
well, I think it'd be neat to see some of the, especially stuff like the evolution of your shocks and stuff like that. I think that kind of stuff is really cool because that, like you said, the shocks and stuff have become high tech and stuff, and that's the most advancements they've done with a lot of the stuff here lately. So that would be kind of cool to see how those pieces were fabricated and what you have left. We have a caller on the line. This is one of our lug nuts from up in the Canada area. Brad, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Roller. How do you know every single time if it's me or not?
Dude, I just know, man. I'm mentally telepathic. I can
pathetic.
Don't you tell me that ever again, Dingo. Don't you call me that. Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead, Brad. What kind of question you got for Fred? For Fred. For Jack. Second time. I'm going to quit looking at my notes. Look at here. Notes are going bye-bye. There they are. They're out of here.
Well, Jack, I grew up watching the Taurus truck and everything. I got to say, it was one of my favorite trucks during the Penda series and everything. But if there's one thing you could have done differently with the design or anything, what would have you done?
I don't think, well, the thing that we always wanted to do is we wanted to put the motor where the driver was and the driver where the motor is. And we never did do that.
And if let's say, since like Tom Mentz drives a design that is very similar, he's done a lot of changes to certain parts of the truck. Would if Tom put a Taurus throwback body on it, because a lot of the monster trucks these days are having old school bodies, example Gravedigger, the Legend, and everything. Would you think that would be something really cool for him to do and everything like that?
No, not the way things are today. I mean, if there was real racing, you know, yeah, that would be the thing to do, but not to go out there and do what they do as far as the freestyle, because it'd be too dangerous for the driver.
Hmm. Well, Brad, what do you think about that?
That's an interesting thing to look at. You know, I have to admit, like with freestyle, sometimes these days the drivers are getting a lot more insane with what Tom Meents did in Philadelphia and everything, you know. And for somebody like me, like I grew up watching Penda and, you know, USA Motorsports, and for like me, I enjoy like the modern day freestyle, but I'd like to see like, you know, real racing, a real point series come back. And I've always said this, you know, like it'd be beneficial to the sport, and, you know, bring back some of the old veterans out and get them active in the sport again.
Yeah, really, you know, to me, what would be really keen for the monster truck is have like a Mickey Thompson off-road track.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that would have more skill and everything than the freestyle is doing today.
It's truth.
And that would be a lot more exciting. Could you just imagine, like, and this almost happened at one time with Mickey Thompson. This almost happened one time. The L.A. Coliseum, when they had the Mickey Thompson tracks that they put in there, going up around the big turnstile, two monster trucks running side by side, and, you know, be like open wheel racing.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I believe they did something very similar to that in the 90s. Like, I think it was like Pace Motorsports, when they used to do the arena trucks and everything during like 99, 98. They had a couple monster trucks actually go into one of the stadiums and race on a course very similar to that.
What truck
like
was
that
it?
was,
you know, because it was back in the 90s. I should have been aware of it, because there wasn't anything hardly back in the 90s as far as capable of running like a Mickey Thompson track, outside of like us and Bigfoot or Fred with Barefoot. I mean, there just wasn't any.
Yeah.
Well,
so do
like,
you know what truck that was?
Like, I'd love to see, you know, real monster truck racing. You know, even though people are like, oh, straight line's boring, you know, straight line produced some of the best racing I believe ever.
You know who I think produced the best racing in our era, anyways, and the most fun was TNT.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, and
they did.
That was when Equalizer and Carolina Crusher and Gravedigger, and I mean, all of them was there. And it was
like, for me, I didn't really watch that era growing up because I wasn't born, but I watched a lot of it on YouTube, and I have to say, you know, they went all out back then. You know, it's amazing to see, you know, the trucks of the time, how capable and how, you know, much air they were getting and everything.
Yeah, and you know, back then, you know, like there was a New York mini series, and there was lots of series, but we raced no matter rain or what was going on. We raced in the mud, you know, and going over our obstacles, the cars or whatever. I mean, and there was no freestyle because the racing was exciting enough, so we didn't have to have the freestyle.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know how many people's listening out there that really went to them.
Well, I'll guarantee you there's some people out there that was there. I'll guarantee you there is.
But yeah, that was fun time. You know, it might have been fun because we was on top of the game at that time.
That's right.
It was definitely fun.
Yeah. Well, Brad, I appreciate you calling in, man. I hope everything's going good. You guys getting snow up there yet?
Not yet, but it's probably going to be coming soon.
We already beat you then, man. We already got it last weekend. We're getting it this week, too. So I one-upped you, Barrow.
Normally on any Halloween it starts snowing, but it hasn't yet, which is kind of odd.
Well, Brad, thank you very much for your calls.
Care, Brad.
No problem, guys. It was an honor to talk to you, Jack, and congrats on being inducted into the Monster Truck Hall of Fame. It's it's awesome for our sport.
All right. Well, you know what? We got a few minutes left, and we got a lot of questions to be asked. I kind of want to touch base real fast. When you sold, probably 98, 99, was that when you sold the truck to Turpin?
Yes, somewhere around there.
Okay. Now, you did not sell the name to him, correct? You just sold the truck to him, and he ran the truck's name.
Yes.
Okay. So you still own the Taurus name to this day?
Yes.
What about the issue with NASCAR? Was there something that they had to get permission from you to run that name?
Yes, the Taurus cars.
Right.
When they put them on the track.
Ford,
yes, which we worked out an agreement, and of course, I didn't get rich off of it or nothing. It was just kind of a casual thing, which it don't mean anything today because, of course, they don't run the Taurus cars on a NASCAR track, and that the thing was back then is I copyrighted the novelty end of things, the toys, the T-shirts, the pictures, all that stuff. I copyrighted all that. So
that was a great business move.
That was where the big issue was.
That was a great business move on your end. I'll guarantee you that. So if you get stories from everybody throughout it. So guys, to answer your questions out there, no, Paul Schaefer doesn't own the name. No, Dave Turpin doesn't own the name. No, Bennett Clark doesn't own the name. My buddy Jack still does. He's still the man. So let's see here. What else we got here? We got a caller. We got another caller, Jack. Let's see who's on the phone. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Roller. This is Mark Iron.
Mark, how are you tonight, my friend?
Busy, man.
Well, that's the way life is, my friend, but I guarantee you what, it's always nice to see you pop up on the screen on Monday nights, man. You're a true lug nut fan.
Hey, thank you, Roller.
Yes, sir. Do you have a question for Jack?
Yeah. Mr. Willman.
Yes.
What would you consider some of the highlight moments across your entire career in Monsters?
Well, I guess whenever they started the racing end of it, like the TNT series, all of them was highlight. I mean, like when we come up against Bigfoot or Barefoot, and we'd come out on top, which, we've got quite a bit of video of that stuff. That was great. That was highlights. And Jackie driving, and Eldon driving, both of them. I think the first time was up in Memphis, and Jackie was driving. Another time was in Indianapolis, and Eldon was driving. And I don't know, if you've seen him or that, but the particular time Eldon was driving, it was the first time I let him drive. I was pretty far ahead in the points at that time, and I let Eldon take over the driving seat, and we came up against Bigfoot 3 times.
Wow.
The first time was Andy Brass driving Bigfoot, and of course he smoked Eldon pretty good. But Nick Rossi, Jersey Outlaw, had tore his truck up, so he wasn't able to come back, so we got to come back on a fast round loser. Okay, and this time we got matched up against Bigfoot again. Okay, and Andy just barely beat. Matter of fact, you couldn't tell who won, but they give it to Andy Bigfoot. And there again, we got to come back as fast round loser, and ended up in the finals against Bigfoot. And of course, Eldon, the third time that he went down the track in the truck, which we kept telling him, he just got to kind of hammer down. Andy was getting him out of the hole pretty bad, but Eldon smoked him pretty good that time, and of course that's that's a highlight for sure.
Sure. Anytime you get a chance to put a win against Bigfoot, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. But, those were the highlights, I guess, honest. Jackie driving and us beating Bigfoot and Barefoot and then Eldon taking over and doing the same thing. At that time I had 2 race trucks running, Jackie in one and Eldon in one. Jackie running one series and Eldon running another series. That was it right there.
You're a busy man. Well, Mark, I tell you what, I appreciate you calling in, man. I hope we've answered your question.
You did. Thank you, Mr. Willman, and thank you for your contributions to monster trucks. And Roller, thank you for putting on the show, man.
Not a problem. Anytime, man. Anytime. I hope you continue to be a loyal fan when Ross gets on there too, bud.
I will be, man.
Guaranteed. And I'll be back from time to time just to say hi and see how everybody's doing, and you'll still see me at shows. So thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
Hey, no trouble, man. Have a happy Halloween. All
right, buddy. Same to you. All right. Well, Jack, we got about 5 minutes left, and I've got another hour's worth of questions on here. I just want to put something in your mind. I know that a lot of us would love to see a DVD put out there of some of the old footage that you have, some narration by you, some film footage of you and Jackie and Eldon and everybody. So, man, if you could get something like that out there, I know it would be a big seller because I know that we would push it pretty hard here on Monster Truck Radio. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I guess I don't know how to go about doing something like that anymore.
Well, buddy, I'll tell you what, if you're ever interested, there's a bunch of people out there that we can hook you up with because that's stuff that needs to be archived and it needs to be kept on these new discs and stuff like that so that future generations can enjoy that. So, I mean, if you're really interested, we can definitely get you some people's names that can take care of that for you and get that handled for you. So make sure you let us know.
Sure, I'd be interested in doing that.
All right. Well, I'll make sure that we get you back in touch with you and get you some guys' names that can do that. I'm not too sure that Colby Marshall couldn't help you out. I know he's a busy man. I hate to throw his name out there, but I think that Colby would be a great person to talk to about that. He would definitely know somebody that could get something like that. He's a guru in that. So. Anyway, Jack, we got about 3 minutes left. Army Armstrong was on the show, and I imagine you've had many a time to hang out with Army and know him well. He started a deal here called Rent-A-Car Stories, and basically what it was is it's a story that maybe something happened in a rent-a-car where you guys were out having some fun one night, and something that you could tell, make us all laugh, and not get you in trouble.
No, I guess I don't know what that would be. There's so many different times. Army and Dave Bennett and all that group. There's so many. I don't know which one it would be.
That would be another show in its own, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well, buddy, I'll tell you what. I want to thank you, and this sounds repetitious because I thanked everybody so far that's been on the show with this Hall of Fame. I want to thank you for doing what you did with the sport, for taking the sport to where you took it, and being the inspiration for what we see today. Because without you guys, we wouldn't be here having this show. We wouldn't be having monster truck shows on the weekends that we take our families to, and it would just be kind of a sad world without monster trucks. So I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of all the lug nuts hearts for doing what you've done with the sport.
Well, thank you very much.
It's just amazing. So I hope to run into you soon, sometime, somewhere. I was going to try to make it out to the Hall of Fame, but I have a show that weekend. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to make it, but maybe we can get you guys back on the show with Ross and get Jackie on and everything. So I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, Jack. I apologize once again for calling you Fred, but it wasn't intentional, I promise.
Yeah, I hope that's all right.
All right, guys. Okay. Well, guys, okay. I tell you what, if you want to hang out and talk to a crazy man, Randy Reeman's up next, man. He's got some great stuff coming up. You never know what he's going to talk about. So he's got his keyboard.
5 on air. It's pretty cool.
And it is pretty cool. So if you guys want to hang out and check out his show, It's going to be awesome. I wish I could stay. Once again, guys, we've got 2 more shows left. Everett Jasmer's up next, USA #1 next week. And then it's going to be Bob Chandler, and then No Moss for Roller. So I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to do anything for you guys tonight as far as some of the questions that I did ask for you, since Randy's got